Hello, Magic English 8 here. Thank you for watching my videos. I hope they are helping you in improving your English. And if you find them useful, please kindly share them with your friend. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please kindly subscribe. This is useful for my channel. So today I am with you with another unit of Interchange Intro. And so far we have covered 14 units of the book. So today we are going for unit 15, where were you born? Talking about past tense, unit 14 we were, and today also we continue that past talk. And before starting the unit, let's take a look at the word file and see what we are covering today. Today we are covering unit 15, where were you born? And the main areas we are talking about: biographical information, I will tell you what it means, years and school days, all of them in past tense, asking for and giving information about date and place of birth, and describing school experiences and memories, past tense. And under our grammar focus, we will have statements and questions with the past of be, was, were, and WH questions with did, was, and where. So all our talk today revolves around past tense. And the snapshot of the unit: where were they born? Some famous people from different countries: Japan, Mexico, South Korea, the UK, and the US. So my friends, I expect you to read these country names and check your pronunciation as well. It is Japan with the stress on P, Mexico, South Korea. Please open your mouth. Some students go south. It is south. Ow, like house, like mouth. South Korea, the UK, and the US. So, what do we mean by that? For UK and US, we will bring the. UK and the US. Some countries you need to memorize. They come with the UAE or the Netherlands or the Philippines. We need to memorize them. Okay, this is one point. The other point, I wanted to talk about biographical. So, biography, which is a noun, it is composed of two parts. Number one, bio, which means life, and graph, which means writing. So it means writing about life. So when you write about someone's life, it is called biography. For example, biography of Albert Einstein. And if it is auto, bio, graph, y, autobiography, it is writing about your own life. So writing the story of your own life is called autobiography. But biography by itself means writing about someone's life. That was the story of biography we talked about. And now here, where were they born? So, as some grammar exercise, before starting, let's listen to that. At least we get familiar with the pronunciation of these nouns.
Unit 15. Where were you born? Page 100. Exercise 1. Snapshot. Listen and practice. Where were they born?
Okay.
1. Esperanza Spalding.
So Esperanza Spalding,
Musician.
and she's a musician. So, can you think where she was born among these countries? Good. So she's from the US. We are warming up. We will talk about this grammar.
2. John Oliver. Comedian.
And what about him? What about him? Good. The UK.
3. Lupita Nyong'o.
Okay.
Actress.
Actress. And what about her? Mexico.
4. Shin-Soo Choo. Baseball player.
Baseball player from South Korea. And
5. Shigeru Miyamoto. Game designer.
Mr. Miyamoto, game designer from Japan. Okay, so we just wanted to kind of know where these people are from, but here I got some grammar practice for you. It says ask me questions about the first one. So her name is this. Please ask me a question for her name. What is your question? Good. What's her name? What is her name? Her name is Esperanza Spalding. Ask me a question about her job, which is musician. So your question is, good. What does she do? Or what is her job? Good, good. And please ask me, and I say she's a musician. Ask me about where and born. Okay? Where? Good. Where was she born? Please don't say where did she born. For born, always our question comes with was or were. Where were you born? Where was she born? Where was he born? Okay? So, where was she born? These were the questions that we could ask about the picture. Now, number 2, question for his name. What's his name? Good. Question for his job. What does he do? Question for place of birth. Where was he born? Very good. And any other question? No. And again, please repeat the questions. I want them to be fixed for you. Name. What is her name? Job. What does she do? And place of birth. Where was she born? Good, good. And for this one, name. What's his name? Job. What does he do? And place of birth. Very good. Where was he born? And the last one, again the same. What's his name? What does he do? And where was he born? Repetition is the key in language learning, my friends. Very good. Very good. Thank you. So this was the story of these questions. Now, for our speaking part here, it says what famous people were born in your country and what do they do. I got a sample response for you here. Please pause the video and wherever you are from, answer this question. What famous people were born in your country? What do they do? This is your chance for speaking. So pause the video and talk about famous people of your country. I have given this sample response for someone living in Vietnam. Vietnam has many famous people. For example, President Ho Chi Minh led our country to independence. Lead to means directed towards, or took to, or guided to independence. Independence. So what is the meaning of independence? Independence. Dependence means you need someone or something. You rely on someone. Opposite of that, independence. So you don't need anyone or anything. You can stand on your own feet. Independence, noun, and independent. Independent, adjective. Okay? So independence means our country didn't need other countries, or it's not didn't need other countries. It could take care of itself by itself. Independence. Good. Led our country to independence. Also, Pham Nhat Vuong is a successful businessman. Good. And as a skilled artist, Trinh Quang Song composed beloved songs. These people made significant contributions to Vietnam's history, business, and culture. Why the last sentence is like a conclusion. So they made contributions. It means they helped Vietnam's history, Mr. President, business, the businessman, and culture, the last one who was composer of songs. Okay, so this was the sample response for famous people living in Vietnam. You can give the sample response for your country in order to develop your speaking. Okay, very good. I guess we are kind of done with exercise 1, the snapshot. If no problem, we move to exercise 2 and the conversation. Okay, I was born in Brazil. Please do not read the conversation text. Here, we need to talk about the picture. Okay? So, I got some questions for you before we start speaking and grammar practice. It says unscramble the question and answer them. How many see you do people in the picture? So, it is talking about the number of people in the picture. You know how many people are in the picture. So question, how many? After that, the noun you're asking, people. Question form, do you see in the picture? Very good. How many people do you see in the picture? I can see 2 people in the picture, a girl and a boy. Doing what they are. Question, good, good. What are they doing? What are they doing? So, the boy is cutting her hair, or she's at the barber shop, or at a hairstylist, or whatever. And pre-listening tips. Because you are not reading the text, I want to tell you what is going on. Bianca, the girl, is a customer in a beauty salon. The hairstylist, Mario, is asking her about her life. Okay, now focus questions. Where is she from, Bianca? And where are Mario's parents from? So 2 questions. Where is she from? Where are the boy's parents from? Be all ears and listen, please.
A. Page 100. Exercise 2. Conversation. I was born in Brazil. Listen and practice.
Bianca, that's a nice name. Where were you born?
I was born in Brazil.
Oh, so you weren't born in the U.S. Your English is really good.
Thanks. I studied English for many years.
Did you study English in Brazil?
Yeah, I started when I was 7.
You were pretty young.
Yes, I went to a bilingual school. I had classes in English and in Portuguese.
You were lucky to learn another language so well.
Do you speak a second language too?
Well, I speak a little Italian. My parents were born in Milan.
Okay, got the conversation? Pause the video and give a summary of what you heard. So she's from Brazil, and his parents, Mario's parents, are from Italy, from Milan. And a bit of the review of what we listened to. So her English is good. Why? Because she went to a bilingual school and she started learning English at the age of 7. Okay, good. Now let's listen to the conversation a second time while looking at the text.
I was born.
Bianca, that's a nice name. Where were you born?
I was born in Brazil.
Oh, so you weren't born in the U.S. Your English is really good.
Why her English is so good?
Thanks. I studied English for many years.
Did you study English in Brazil?
Yeah, I started when I was 7.
You were pretty young.
Yes, I went to a bilingual school. I had classes in English and in Portuguese.
Very good. I will tell you about these new words.
You were lucky to learn another language so well.
Do you speak a second language too?
Well, I speak a little Italian. My parents were born in Milan.
Okay, good, good. So maybe the only difficult word for you is bilingual. Bilingual school. Let me tell you about the word, and after that we'll listen to the conversation repeating it. So bilingual, is it ringing a bell to you? Is the word sounding similar like other words? For example, you can see the word lingu, language, and these things in it. So it has something to do with language. And also we have the prefix bi. Bi means two. So it means two languages. If someone can speak two languages, we call them a bilingual. For example, those born in Canada, some of them can speak French and English. Bilingual. Okay? Bilingual. With the word bi, we also have bi and cycle. So cycle, cycle, and cycle, which is pronounced bicycle. Bicycle, so it means it has two cycles. Bicycle. Also we have tricycle. Tricycle, tri means three, so it has three tires. Okay, so that is morphology, knowing what word parts mean. Bilingual. Now let's listen to the conversation another time while repeating it together. Ready, my friends? Please do.
Bianca, that's a nice name.
Bianca, that's a nice name.
Where were you born?
Where were you born? Where were you born? So, a bit about the pronunciation of these two words. It says, where were you born? It is not where, and it is not ver. Be careful. It is where were. Where were you born? Where were you born? Where were you born? One more time.
Bianca, that's a nice name. Where were you born?
Where were you born? Where were you born? Okay, please repeat with me.
I was born in Brazil.
I was born in Brazil. I was born in Brazil with the stress on the second syllable, Brazil.
Oh, so you weren't born in the U.S.
Oh, so you weren't born in the US. You weren't born in the US. The US.
Your English is really good.
Your English is really good.
Thanks. I studied English for many years.
Thanks. I studied English for many years.
Did you study English in Brazil?
Did you study English in Brazil?
Yeah, I started when I was 7.
Yeah, I started when I was 7. I started when I was 7.
You were pretty young.
You were pretty young.
Yes, I went to a bilingual school.
Yes, I went to a bilingual school.
I had classes in English and in Portuguese.
I had classes in English and in Portuguese. Portuguese, the language of people in Brazil. Portuguese. I had classes in English and in Portuguese, the language of Portugal, Portuguese. And also in Brazil they speak Portuguese. So,
You were lucky to learn another language so well.
you were lucky to learn another language so well.
Do you speak a second language too?
Do you speak a second language too?
Well, I speak a little Italian.
Well, I speak a little Italian.
My parents were born in Milan.
My parents were born in Milan. Okay, so that was about the pronunciation, and we repeated the sentences. Now, a fourth time for the sake of language and grammar. It says Bianca. That's a nice name. Where were you born? So that's a nice name. Yes, no question, please. Is that a nice name? Good. Where were you born? I was born in Brazil. I was born in Brazil. Yes, no, please. Were you born in Brazil? If you got was or were in your sentence, just put it in the beginning and that will be a question. I was born. Were you born in Brazil? And the negative? I wasn't born in Brazil. Good. So, you weren't born in the US? Your English is really good. Yes, no, please. Is your English really good? Thanks. I studied English for many years. I studied English for many years. Yes, no, please. You see here we don't have am, is, or, was, were, so we need do, does, or did. And because it is past tense, did. Did you study English for many years? Did you study English for many years? Let's talk about it. I studied English for many years. I studied English for many years. The yes no is, did you study English for many years? And then I want to ask you a question for many years. So what do? I just put the yes no and put a how long in the beginning, and that's that. How long did you study English? I studied English for many years. Okay? And then here says, did you study English in Brazil? Yeah, I started when I was 7. I started when I was 7. Yes, no? Did you start when you were 7? Good. And question for 7? Very good. How old were you when you started? Or when did you start? When did you start? Did you start when you were 7? Yes. When did you start? When I was 7. Okay? Numbers from 1 to 9, you need to spell them out. After 10, you can write them in digits. Okay? You were pretty young. Yes, no? Were you pretty young? Were you pretty young? And question for age? Good. How old were you? How old were you when you started studying English? I went to a bilingual school. Yes, no? Did you go to a bilingual school? Did you go to a bilingual school? And then, question for bilingual school, where? Where did you go? I went to a bilingual school. I had classes in English and in Portuguese. Yes, no? Did you have classes in English and in Portuguese? Good. And someone might ask a question about how many languages did you have classes in, which is a little difficult for our level. You were lucky to learn another language so well. Were you lucky? Do you speak a second language too? Well, I speak a little Italian. Yes, no, please? So you see, it is not past tense. Here we don't need a did, we need a do. Do you speak Italian? Yes, I do. My parents were born in Milan. Where? Where were your parents born? Where were your parents born? Okay, got it? Very good. We had a very good review on our grammar practice. Now here we can ask some questions about this picture. For example, do you like to become a hairstylist? Please pause the video and give your answer. For example, yes, I do like to become a hairstylist because every day I am dealing with different people, and also this is the job where I can show my creativity and talent. Okay? Or someone says, no, I don't like this job because to my mind it's not that okay to, for example, work on people's hair, or I don't like it. It's not my cup of tea. It's not. It's not my cup of tea. which means this is not what I like. This is not what I like. It's not my cup of tea. Okay, good, good, thank you. And also we can talk about some of the words in the picture. So, what is it? It's a mirror. Question for this, what are they? Because they've got two blades, we say, what are they? And they are scissors. Scissors. So that is a plural noun, and we should say a pair of scissors or they are my scissors. Good. And that's that. Okay. Now, if you're good, let's move to exercise 3 and grammar focus. Past tense of be. Grammar focus, past tense of be. So just taking a look at this, it will give you the structure of past tense of be. Past tense of be is was and where. For I, he, she, it, we use was. And the rest of the sentence. For example, I was really happy yesterday. He was at home yesterday. She was very tired last night. It was a cold day yesterday. For example, you, we, they were, and the rest of the sentence. Complement. They were at home last night. You were really excited about the trip yesterday. And we were not at work yesterday. Any other sentence. So this is the structure. Okay? Now, here the sentences. It says, I was born. Let's listen to this part.
Page 101. Exercise 3. Grammar focus. Past of be.
I was born here.
I was born here. If I were you, I would repeat these sentences. I was born here. Yes, no. Were you born here? And WH? Where were you born? Good.
I wasn't born in Italy.
I wasn't born in Italy.
You were pretty young.
You were pretty young. Yes, no. Were you pretty young? And how old? How old were you? Good. Repeat these questions and out of nowhere you see, oh, I can speak so well. Because asking questions is a big problem.
You weren't very old.
You weren't very old.
She was 7.
She was 7. Was she 7? How old was she?
She wasn't in college.
She wasn't in college.
We were at the hair salon.
We were at the hair salon. We were at the hair salon. So probably I forgot to tell you. This place is called a hair salon where we saw the conversation taking place. It was a hair salon. So a place like this is called a hair salon. Hair salon. Okay. We were at the hair salon. Were you at a hair salon? And where? Where were you?
We weren't at the cafe.
We weren't at the cafe. Cafe.
They were born in Milan.
They were born in Milan. Where? Where were they born? Good.
They weren't born in Rome.
They weren't born in Rome. And here are the questions.
Weren't equals were not.
The contracted forms.
Wasn't equals was not.
Were you in class yesterday?
Yes, I was. No, I wasn't.
Was your first teacher American?
Yes, she was. No, she wasn't.
So you see, yes, no questions and the responses. Yes, comma, she was. No, she wasn't. And?
Were your parents born in the U.S.?
Yes, they were. No, they weren't.
Okay, so I don't find it hard. If in your sentence you got was or were, for making the question, just put them in the beginning. For negative, just add a not. Okay? And if we did not have was or were, we need a did for making questions and for negation or making negative. For making questions, we talked about it, and here it says yes, no questions with the past of be. Just put was and were before the subject and then the complement or the rest of the sentence. And then yes, subject was were, no, subject wasn't or weren't. And you know, for example, were you tired last night? Yes, I was. No, I wasn't. And the other sentences that you know about. Okay, so before going to part B, let's first take care of part A, kind of get familiar with the exercise more with the grammar, and after that go to part B. Bianca is talking about her family. Choose the correct verb form. My family and I were all born in Brazil. We weren't born in the US. I was born in the city of Recife, and my brother was born there too. My parents weren't born in Recife. They were born in Rio de Janeiro. In Rio, my father was a teacher and my mother was an engineer. They have their own business in Recife now. Okay, good. Part B. Look at the picture below, ask and answer these questions. Okay, so if you take a look at the picture, you can see one student is late. Your job now here is to pause the video and a little describe the picture. So if I want to describe the picture, I say there is a class and the teacher is teaching, but one of the students seems to be late for the class, and it seems that she was caught in the rain. So it is raining and she was late. Maybe she couldn't find a ride. Okay, based on any picture, if you speak, you're speaking little by little, gets improved. Now, answers. Was Tessa on time for class yesterday? Answer, no, she wasn't. Was it English class? No, it wasn't. It was a chemistry class. Was it a sunny day? No, it wasn't. It was a rainy day. Was it 10? It was 10:05. Was Mr. Walker very angry? No, he wasn't. Were Alyssa and Jacob late too? No, they weren't. They were sitting in the class. Were they at the board, these guys? No, they weren't. They were sitting. Were the windows open? No, they weren't. They were closed. Okay, so this was our talk. Based on this picture, you can ask many other questions. For example, question about his clothes. Good. What is he wearing? Unit 4 of this book. What is he wearing? And the answer, he's wearing a white shirt, a purple or pink tie, and black pants. Question about her clothes, about her looks. What is she like? What is she like? She's young, she's tall, she has beautiful blonde hair and things like that. She's not heavy, she's not thin. So all of these questions and answers. Question about weather. What's the weather like? Or about past tense. What was the weather like? These are the things that we have talked about in the past. Now we can have a review of our grammar based on the picture. Okay. And the part B here I have unscramble the questions. So How do you unscramble it? Was in school a teacher. She. Good. She was a teacher in the school. Good. Sunny, summer, and day was it a. Okay. How do you? It was a sunny day in summer. Very good. It was a sunny day in summer. This one, if you don't want me to give the answer soon, please pause the video. They were at the grocery store. Yeah, so one of the ats is incorrect. They were at the grocery store. Good. This one, the yard were dog and the cat and in the, kind of difficult. So the verb is where, so the subject must be plural. We can say the dog and the cat were playing in the yard. Very good. Very good. The dog and the cat were playing in the yard. Good. And this one, I were home. My parents went at work came. So because we have this where, it can be my parents were home when I came. My parents were at work when I came home. Good. My parents were at work when I came home. Good. Good. Okay. So this is the way we build up our grammar. This is the way we build up our speaking. Okay. I hope you are good with this grammar. And now let's go to exercise 4, pronunciation. Negative contractions. So by contracted forms, we mean, for example, are not, aren't, do not, don't. This is called contracted or the short form. Now, contracted forms in negation or in negative senses could be one syllable, could be two syllables. The problem is that the one syllable ones sometimes are pronounced wrong in two syllables. For example, some students go aren't. It's incorrect. It is aren't. Weren't. It is one syllable. If you say weren't, it is two syllables, and that is incorrect. Let's listen to the part.
Page 102. Exercise 4. Pronunciation. Negative contractions. Part A. Listen and practice. One syllable.
Okay, please repeat.
Aren't,
Aren't,
weren't,
weren't,
don't,
don't,
can't,
can't,
Two syllables.
isn't,
isn't. So, isn't, two syllables.
wasn't,
Wasn't,
doesn't,
doesn't,
didn't.
didn't. Okay? So, pronunciation also matters. Now, part B, please listen and repeat.
Part B. Listen and practice.
They didn't like the comedy because it wasn't funny.
They didn't like the comedy because it wasn't funny.
I don't like coffee,
I don't like coffee,
and she doesn't like tea.
and she doesn't like tea.
This isn't my book.
This isn't my book. See, it is book, not book. This isn't my book.
I can't read French.
I can't read French.
They weren't in class yesterday,
They weren't in class yesterday,
and they aren't in class today.
and they aren't in class today. Okay, so correct pronunciation makes significant contribution to your better speaking. Okay, I guess we are good with this pronunciation. And now exercise 5 and conversation. I grew up in New York. So you see, this is the rest of the previous conversation, and the puzzled face and the surprised and shocked face on Bianca's. Yeah, so he has brought about some disaster. Let's see what it is, but please don't look at the text. We want to let our imagination grow. Pre-listening tips. This is the rest of that conversation. Here, Bianca is asking about Mario's life. Okay, focus questions. What was Mario's major in college? So major is what you study, field of study. Was it hair design? I don't think so. English or photography? And why? Why did he become a hairstylist? Why? He needed the money. He liked hair design. He liked people, probably. So let's listen and see if our guesses are correct or incorrect. Let's see.
Page 102. Up in New York. Listen and practice.
So, Mario, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York.
Were you born there?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn.
And when did you come to Los Angeles?
In 2008.
How old were you then?
I was 18. I went to college here.
Oh, what was your major?
Photography. I was a photographer for 5 years after college.
Really? Why did you become a hairstylist?
Because I needed the money. And I love it. So, what do you think?
Well,
Okay, so about Mario's life. Did you get it? Please pause the video and give your summary of the part. The summary of the part, my version, is he was born in New York, in Brooklyn, and he moved to LA in 2008 when he was 18 years old, and his major was photography. He did it for 5 years. And why did he become a hairstylist? Because he needed the money and he loves it. Okay, so the answers to the part, photography and needed the money. Now, a second time, let's listen to it while looking at the text, okay?
so, Mario, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York.
Were you born there?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn.
And when did you come to Los Angeles?
In 2008.
How old were you then?
I was 18. I went to college here.
Oh, what was your major?
Photography. I was a photographer for 5 years after college.
Really? Why did you become a hairstylist?
Because I needed the money. And I love it. So, what do you think?
Well,
More than she doesn't like the style, I guess. Okay, now a third time, my friends. Let's listen and repeat that. Okay, ready to repeat with me? Please.
So, Mario, where did you grow up?
So, Mario, where did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York.
I grew up in New York.
Were you born there?
Were you born there?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn.
And when did you come to Los Angeles?
And when did you come to Los Angeles?
In 2008.
In 2008.
How old were you then?
How old were you then?
I was 18.
I was 18.
I went to college here.
I went to college here.
Oh, what was your major?
Oh, what was your major? What was your major?
Photography.
Photography. Photography.
I was a photographer for 5 years after college.
I was a photographer for 5 years after college. So, photography, photographer.
Really? Why did you become a hairstylist?
Really? Why did you become a hairstylist? Why did you become a hairstylist?
Because I needed the money.
Because I needed the money.
And I love it.
And I love it.
So, what do you think?
So, what do you think? Okay, good. And now, a fourth time, let's review it again for the sake of language and grammar. It says, so Mario, where did you grow up? So, I grew up in New York. Where did you grow up? In the grammar part, I will talk about these irregular verbs. Where did you grow up? I grew up in New York. I grew up in New York. Yes, no question. Did you grow up in New York? Did you grow up in New York? Good. So, were you born there? Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn. Question for this one. Were you born in Brooklyn? And where were you born? Good. And when did you come to Los Angeles? When did you come to Los Angeles? In 2008. How old were you then? I was 18. I was 18, so the question is this one. How old were you? How old are you? How old were you in 2000? How old were you in 2020? How old were you when your sister got married? Whatever. I went to college here. I went to college here. Yes, no? Did you go to college here? Did you go to college here? What was your major? So major or field of study. Major or field of study. Field of study. What is your major? What is your field of study? Photography. I was a photographer. I was a photographer. Question. What was your job? Or what did you do? For 5 years. I was a photographer for 5 years. How long were you a photographer? Good. Why did you become a hairstylist? Because I needed the money. I needed the money. Remember from the previous video, unit 13, we said need. ED is pronounced needed. I needed the money. So question, did you need the money? And I love it. Question, do you love it? So past tense, present tense. Do you love it? What do you think? And the things that we talked about. Okay, so this was this conversation. Very beautiful, talking about past tense. And exercise 6, grammar focus, WH questions with did, was, and where. So it's going to be a great review for us to learn the grammar of past tense with was, where, and with main verbs which need a did. So here, please do not look at these questions. Just look at the answers. It says, I grew up in New York. So if you want to ask a question for New York, you say, where did you grow up? So you know what the style is? I grew up in New York. First, you need to make a yes-no question for it. It says, I will talk about it. It says, I grew up in New York. First, you need to make a yes-no question. Did you grow up in New York? And then you say where, and put a where before this one. Where did you grow up? Where did you grow up? I grew up in New York. Okay. It says he worked in a department store. Good. Where did he work? He worked in a department store. I came to Los Angeles in 2008. Good. When did you come to Los Angeles? Because I needed the money. Hairstylist. Why did you become a hairstylist? Good. And I was born in Brooklyn. Where were you born? I was born in 1990. When were you born? I was 18. For example, how old were you when you came to Los Angeles or whatever? And photography, major. What was your major? It was photography. I was a photographer for 5 years back then. And now if I a little bring it back to the size, yeah. These are all the questions that we talked about. So one important practice for you whenever you are reading, change the statements into questions. Yes, no questions and WH questions. Okay, got it? And now if we take a look at this part, it says the structure of the past tense with was, were, and did. WH, did, and subject verb. We talked about it. For example, when did they come from school? And WH word was where instead of did. When were they at school? When did they come? When were they at school? Okay, good. And now part A. It says match the questions with the answers numbers 1 to 6 to with A to F. Where were you born? E. In Kyoto, Japan. Where did you grow up? I grew up in Tokyo. How was your first day of school? Because it says first day of school, the subject must be it. It was a little scary. Who was your best friend in school? We need a person. His name was Akio. What was he like? What was he like? He was really friendly. And why did you take this class? I wanted to improve my English. Okay? So the questions and the answers we talked about. And now the grammar practice. Write the question to each sentence. So some sentences here for you with was, where, and with main verbs. You write the questions to them. They were happy to see their friends. Very easy for you now. Were they happy to see their friends? Good. She visited the museum last week. If you don't have was, where, you need a did. Did she visit the museum last week? Good. My sister and I were at the movies last night. Good. Were you and your sister at the movies last night? The movies means cinema. They finished their work before dinner. Did they finish their homework before dinner? Good. She was in her bedroom for 2 hours. Was she in her bedroom for 2 hours? Good. And we went. Did you go? Did you go to the beach on that sunny day? Good. Good. Okay. And here part C, ask and answer these questions. So pause the video and answer these questions based on your family. When were you born? Pause the video. Good. I was born in 1981. When was your father born? My father was born in 1957. When was your mother born? My mother was born in 1961. When did you turn 13? Turn means become. When did you become 13? When did you turn 13? I turned 13, for example, in 1994. When did you start high school? I started high school in 1995, I don't know. When did you begin to study English? I began to study English in college or whatever, but just before going to the years, we need to know the past tense of irregular verbs. And here we got the past tense of irregular verbs. In the previous video, I talked about this list and I read it, the present and the past. So not a bad idea to do two things. Number one, if you missed that video, go and watch the part about the grammar and see the past tense of irregular verbs, the pronunciation of them. For example, begin, began, become, became, bring, brought, buy, bought. And the second thing, search for 50 common irregular verbs. Have this and read and memorize it. The only way for that is to memorize. Okay, now saying years. How do we say years? In English, 2 by 2. Most of the time, 2 by 2. And for the years, I got a list of the years here for you, how to say the years. And here also we got BC. So what does BC stand for? And the word of today?
Aquarius.
Aquarius. Aquarius, the 11th sign of zodiac. It is today, January 21st, or as the Persian calendar goes, it is the first day of Bahman, which is Aquarius. And it is my sister's birthday today, so happy birthday, little sister. And let's talk about BC. BC, before Christ. BC.
The Great Pyramid dates from around 2600 BC.
Wow, the Great Pyramid dates from or goes back to 2600 BC. It means 4600 years ago. Okay, and opposite of BC, which means before the birth of Christ, before Christ, is AD. And what is AD? AD, which is a Latin Anno Domini, it is after the birth of Christ. So
the 1st century AD.
The 1st century AD means, for example, 1900 years ago. So it is after the birth of Christ. So here BC 500, which means 2500 years ago. Yeah, 2500 years ago is BC 500. For example, it is the time of the reign of Cyrus the Great in Great Persia. Or 241, we read this one, 241, dividing it 2 by 2 from the right side. 241 or 241 AD. You don't have to write AD because the years, the common years are AD. 241. This one you will read 1058. This one you will read 1900. 1900. And this one 1900s. What is 1900s? It is 1900 to 1909, the first decade. 1979. 1979. This one is 2000. This one is 2002 or 2002. This one is 2015 or 2015. Okay, so that's how we read years. And here we got the list. Okay, I hope you are good with the grammar which we talked about. Past tense with did, was, and were. And now let's go to exercise 7. I wasn't born here.
Part A. Listen. What year were these people born? Complete the sentences.
Okay, what year were they born in?
1. Melissa.
My name is Melissa, and I was born in 1984 in Canada. But I didn't grow up there. My family moved to the United States in 1986, so I really grew up here in America. I went to school and college here, and I became a tour guide in 2004. I give tours to Canada.
Interesting about Melissa. Okay, so it was easy that she was born in 1984 in Canada. But if you have more information you want to talk about, please pause the video and give your sample response. Okay, and now number 2.
2. Colin.
I'm Colin. I grew up here in the UK, and I still live here now, but I wasn't born here. I was born in South Africa in 2000. My parents moved to the UK in 2002, so I went with them, of course. I'm a student, and I'm going to be a doctor someday.
Okay, Colleen, born in 2000 in South Africa, and please pause the video, give your sample response. They moved to the UK and he's a student, he hopes to be a doctor and things like that. And number 3, Kumiko.
3. Kumiko.
My name is Kumiko, and I live here in Japan, but I wasn't born here. I was born in Hawaii in 1965. My parents, 2 sisters, and I moved to Japan in 1967, and I grew up here. I'm a reporter for a local Japanese language TV station.
So Kumiko, born in Hawaii in 1965 and then moved to Japan, in 1967. She's a reporter for a Japanese station.
4. Omar.
I'm Omar. I'm an architect. I was born in 1974 in Egypt. I grew up in Egypt. I went to school and college there, and I became an architect in Egypt. I moved here to France last year. I really like it here, but I'm planning to return to Egypt next year. I want to start my own business there.
Okay, good for Omar. Born in 1974 in Egypt, and he moved to France for studying. He's an architect and he want to go back to Egypt starting his own business. Okay, good. Now a second time, let's listen to the part and talk about its beautiful languages, God. Okay, let's go. In part B it says, where did these people grow up? Okay, we will talk about
Sentences.
My name is Melissa, and I was born in 1984 in Canada. But I didn't grow up there. My family moved to the United States in 1986, so I really grew up here in America. I went to school and college here, and I became a tour guide in 2004.
So I became a tour guide. I became a tour guide. Tour and then guide. I became a tour guide.
I give tours to Canada.
I give tours to Canada. I give tours to Canada. It means I take tourists on tours in Canada. I give tours to Canada.
2. Colin.
I'm Colin. I grew up here in the UK, and I still live here now, but I wasn't born here. I was born in South Africa in 2000. My parents moved to the UK in 2002, so I went with them, of course. I'm a student, and I'm going to be a doctor someday.
Okay, I'm a student, simple present. I'm gonna be a doctor, future.
3. Kumiko.
My name is Kumiko, and I live here in Japan, but I wasn't born here. I was born in Hawaii in 1965. My parents, 2 sisters, and I moved to Japan in 1967.
Good, moved to Japan.
And I grew up here.
I grew up here. Grow up, grew up.
I'm a reporter for a local Japanese language TV station.
Good for you.
4. Omar.
I'm Omar. I'm an architect.
I'm an architect. I'm an architect. The person is architect and the major is architecture. Architecture. So architecture is the major and architect is the person studying that.
Was born in 1974 in Egypt. I grew up in Egypt. I went to school and college there, and I became an architect in Egypt. I moved here to France last year. I really like it here, but I'm planning to return to Egypt next year.
I'm planning to return to Egypt next year.
I want to start my own business there.
I want to start my own business there. So, good speaking practice for you here is to pause the video and give the story of your life. I was born here at this time, and then, for example, my family moved there. I became a hairstylist, I became an architect, I became a doctor, I studied this one, that one, and make some sentences about the story of your life. This is kind of your biography. Okay, this will contribute to your speaking. Pause the video and do that. Good. If you're okay, we move to exercise 8 and word paper. School days, talking about past. And now here a list of some words. Let's listen to that and see if we are okay with the pronunciation of these words. Okay, please repeat.
Auditorium.
Auditorium. Auditorium. So what is an auditorium? Let's take a look at Google. Auditorium. So this is the auditorium of a school, of a college, of a university. Auditorium. So where lectures are given, where special events take place at the school. Auditorium. Okay, please repeat.
Cafeteria.
Cafeteria. Cafeteria.
College.
College.
Computer lab.
Computer lab. Computer lab. And lab is the short form for laboratory. Laboratory. And what is that? See?
Laboratory.
Laboratory. But the British pronunciation?
Laboratory.
Laboratory. Laboratory.
Laboratory.
Laboratory.
Laboratory, the British one. For example,
A research laboratory.
a research laboratory and a research laboratory. So, computer lab and
Elementary school.
elementary school. Elementary school.
Geography.
Geography.
High school.
High school.
History.
History.
Library.
Library.
Middle school.
Middle school. Middle school.
Physical education.
Physical education. Physical education.
Science.
Science. Science. Okay, now about some of these words, I have things to tell you. Putting them in the list is not that difficult, okay? But about the words. Auditorium, we talked about it, is a place in school. Cafeteria, again, another place, not difficult. College is a type of school. Computer lab is a place. Computer lab, it could also be a class. We talked about it. And in case some students don't know what a computer lab is, computer lab. That is a computer lab where students sit and study for their subjects. Elementary school. So elementary school is the time that you turn 7, and depending on the country, sometimes for 6 years you are at elementary school, sometimes for less. And this is the elementary school. So the first school that we go to, elementary school, and after that the middle school, and finally high school. School systems are different in different countries, but this is the American style. Elementary school. Geography. Geography, it is a class, and a bit about the morphology of this word. So geography geography, noun. It's got the word geo or geo, which means earth, and graph, I told you, which means writing. So geography means writing about earth. Geography. Okay. High school, we know what it is. History, we know. Library, middle school. Physical education. Physical education. Because the word is kind of long, they usually go with PE. I got PE today. Physical education is the sports time. Physical education is the sports time in the school. Physical education, or the sports time in the class. Also in line with this, we have, so physical education is what most of the students like, and religious education, which is RE, and something that most of the people don't like. PE, RE, okay? And science, which you know what it is, a class, okay? Now, in part B, we got some speaking. Lots of questions for you, okay? So, golden chance for you to hone your speaking skill. It says, in your school, depending on your age, for example, your high school, I guess it is closer to you now. What classes did you take? It's best for you to pause the video and give your sample response. My response, I took English, math, and science classes. English helped me learn to read and write. Math was challenging, means problematic, means difficult, but fun. And science was exciting, with cool experiments, with lovely experiments, with great experiments, okay? Even if you are an IELTS test taker, this is going to be a great sample response for you, okay? Number 2, what was your favorite class? Why? Most of these questions are IELTS Part 1 speaking questions. My favorite class was art, because I could be creative and draw. I loved expressing myself, showing, revealing, through colors and shapes, and it made learning enjoyable. So for part 1 of IELTS speaking test, you just need 4 short, fast, fluent responses in response to these simple questions. Okay? Number 3. What classes didn't you like? Why? I didn't like gym class. Why? Because I wasn't good at sports. B was where is R. B, good at something. Be good at something. It made me feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Please take care of the pronunciation. Uncomfortable. And I preferred activities where I could go at my own pace, at my own speed. I didn't need to be running with all the class. Something that I could do on my own. Okay, beautiful sample response. Who was your best friend? My best friend was Sarah. We played together during recess, which means the break time. Recess. Shared snacks. Very good. And helped each other with homework. Help someone with something. Beautiful. For example, now that your math is good, could you help me with my math exercises? And she made school more fun. Okay, so you know that fun is a one-syllable adjective, but the comparative form for that is not funner, it is more fun. She made school more fun. Okay, lots of points in these sample responses, my friends. Who was your favorite teacher and why? My favorite teacher was Mrs. Johnson. Why? She was kind, patient, and made learning fun. She used games and stories to teach, and I always looked forward to her class. Look forward to something means eagerly you want something, you are waiting for something to happen, you love something very much. Okay, a beautiful sample response about our favorite teacher. And number 6, where did you spend your free time? Why? I spent my free time in the library because I enjoyed reading books. It was quiet and I could explore, search different words through stories. Lovely, lovely. The library became my favorite place. Good for you. Number 7, what was a typical day of school like? What was he like? What was she like? What's the weather like? What was a typical day of school like? A normal day of school. A typical day included morning assembly, getting together, classes, recess, break time, lunch, and afternoon classes. We learned different subjects. Math is a subject, geography is a subject, science is a subject, music, literature, all of them. We learned different subjects and had breaks for fun activities like drawing and playing games. Okay. And number 8, what didn't you like about school? What did you like? What didn't you like about school? I didn't like homework and tests because they were stressful. Sometimes I felt pressured to perform well, to do well. And it took away from the enjoyment of learning. Yeah, it took away the enjoyment of our learning. Good. I like this part. Lots of words, lots of good grammar that we talked about. Okay, so about school days. And now if you're good, let's have some more speaking. Can you remember school days? So some questions here. I got sample responses for you. My advice, please pause the video and give your sample responses first. In this class, if it was a class in person, so we gotta answer these questions, but you can just use your imagination in order to hone your speaking and grammar. Who was in class? Who wasn't there the first day of this class? Just make some sentences. In class, there were my friends and the teacher. Sarah and John were there, but Tim wasn't. This is wild imagination. Why? We need speaking. Who was late that day? Nobody was late that day. Everyone arrived on time. So, late, opposite, on time. Who was very tired? Sarah was very tired. Why? She said she didn't sleep well the night before. What color were your teacher's shoes? My teacher's shoes were black. What were your teacher's first words? The first words my teacher said were, "Good morning, everyone. How are you today?" You see, these sample responses are not difficult, but I want to see how creative you are. Did all the students bring their books? Yay! All the students brought their books. We needed them for the lesson. Number 7, what did you learn? In class, I learned about animals and their habitats. Habitat, place of living for an animal. So where an animal lives is its habitat. It was interesting. Good. And number 8, what did you do after class? After class, I went to the playground with my friends. we played soccer and had a lot of fun. So what is the playground? It is the part of the school where kids can go and play in the yard. School playground. This is the playground of a school, okay? And the speaking part finished. Now it is the reading part. Story of a third culture kid. We need to read this part and see what a third culture kid means. Okay, let's go.
Reading. The story of a third culture kid.
Tommy was born in Colombo, the largest city in the island country of Sri Lanka. The streets of Colombo were busy, and Tommy loved the colors, sights, and smells. He played on sandy beaches with his friends. He spoke Sinhalese with his friends and family, and learned English at school.
We will read it again talking about the words, don't worry. He
loved visiting the neighborhood markets with his family to buy fresh fruits and vegetables. Typical Sri Lankan dishes made with coconuts and rice were some of his favorite foods.
Okay, I don't want it to be that long, so here I talk about the first paragraph. It says, Tommy was born in Colombo. So, good grammar exercise for you. If you still need, change these into yes, no questions or WH questions. Make negative sentences. The largest city in the island country of Sri Lanka. The streets of Colombo were busy, and Tommy loved the colors. Sights means places that you can see, and smells. Probably there were some stalls selling food. Smell. He played on sandy beaches with his friends. He spoke Sinhalese, the language of Sri Lanka, with his friends and family, and learned English at school. He loved visiting the neighborhood markets with his family to buy fresh fruits and vegetables. Typical Sri Lankan dishes made with coconuts and rice were some of his favorite foods. Okay, no new word or difficult word. So for our cultural awareness and for our general information, where is this country, Sri Lanka? Let's take a look. Okay, so the country is, it is in Southeast Asia. This is India and this one is Sri Lanka. Okay, and not a bad idea to see what the country looks like. It's green and beautiful. Let's go there once. So this is Sri Lanka. What I want to teach you is while you're studying English, you need to add up to your cultural awareness and to your general information about different phenomena. Okay, this was the first paragraph. Now the second one, when he was 6.
When he was 6, Tommy moved with his parents to a small town near New York City. His parents both had new jobs there. For Tommy, life in his new town was a big surprise. Everything was different. The streets were quieter and less colorful. The grocery stores sold so many different types of fruits, vegetables, cheeses, and cereals. There were so many restaurants in his new town. He tried Italian food, Chinese food, Greek food, and Mexican food. The weather was different too.
Okay.
Tommy saw snow for the very first time.
I know that some countries have never seen snow. So it says, when he was 6, Tommy moved with his parents to a small town near New York City. His parents both had new jobs there. For Tommy, life in his new town was a big surprise. Why? Everything was different. The streets were quieter and less colorful. The grocery stores sold so many different types of fruits, vegetables, cheeses, and cereals. You know all of the words. There were so many restaurants in his new town. He tried Italian food. So try here means he ate Chinese food, Greek food, and Mexican food. The weather was different too. Tommy saw snow for the very first time. Exactly for the first time. Very here means exactly for the first time. Okay, I guess no difficult word for you guys. So the other paragraph.
Looking back, Tommy remembers learning that the culture in the United States was different from the culture in Sri Lanka. Not better, not worse, just different. Tommy learned new things every day. He learned Spanish in school. He also learned ways that people in the U.S. communicate with each other. Tommy remembers everyone saying, "How are you doing?" But it wasn't a question. It was like saying hi.
Okay, so these are cultural differences. Where you go to another country, you need to get used to, okay? It says, looking back, going back, thinking back, Tommy remembers learning that the culture in the United States was different from the culture in Sri Lanka. Not better, not worse. It was just different. So this is the idea of acceptance. Diversity and acceptance. There is different cultures, there are different types of people with different attitudes. They are not better, they are not worse. They are just different. Okay? Tommy learned new things every day. He learned Spanish in school. He also learned the ways that people in the United States communicate with each other, interact with each other. Tommy remembers everyone saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" So, how are you doing is not a question. How are you doing means, hi, how are you doing? Yeah. It's not how are you. In the other paragraph,
Tommy was a third culture kid. That means he was raised in a different country than his parents. Many third culture kids believe that they are lucky. They know and understand more than one culture, and they often speak more than one language. Tommy went to college in Los Angeles and studied languages.
Good for Tommy.
Now he works for a big charity that helps children around the world get a good education.
Good Tommy, good Tommy. Tommy was a third culture kid. What does that mean? Third culture kid means your parents are from another country. They immigrate to a new land, and now you are a third culture kid because you have your father and you have your parents' culture as well as the new culture in this place. Okay, so that is third culture kid. Okay, that means he was raised in a different country. He grew up in a different country. He grew up in a different country than his parents. So his parents grew up in Sri Lanka. He grew up in the United States. Many third culture kids believe that they are lucky. Why? They know and understand more than one culture, and they often speak more than one language. Tommy went to college in Los Angeles and studied languages. Now he works for a big charity that helps children around the world get better education. So charity organizations are the organizations taking care of the poor or the people who need charity. And the final paragraph.
Sometimes it's hard to learn a whole new way of life, but Tommy says it's the best thing that ever happened. He calls Sri Lanka home, and the U.S. home too.
Okay, good for Tommy, the boy with two homes. Sometimes it's hard to learn a whole new way of life, a whole complete full way of life. But Tommy says it's the best thing that ever happened. He calls Sri Lanka home and the U.S. home as well. Okay, so this was a reading about third culture kids. We understood who third culture kids are, especially these days with waves of immigration happening in different countries. It's not that hard to see lots of third culture kids around you. Okay, reading summary for improving your grammar, your vocabulary, and putting all the things in your own language. A summary of a reading is always necessary. My summary: Tommy was born in Colombo, Sri Lanka, enjoying its vibrant culture, means happy and beautiful culture. At six, he moved to a quiet town near New York City when his parents got new jobs. Everything was different, from the streets to the food and weather. Tommy learned English at school, discovered diverse cuisines. Diverse means different, and cuisine means food. So he discovered different types of food and experienced his first snow. As a third culture kid, he embraced both Sri Lankan and American culture. Embraced means opened his arms to them. He welcomed both of them. Tommy, now working for a charity, values his multicultural background. So it means it is important for him. He loves it, values his multicultural, because he has more than one culture. Considering both Sri Lanka and the US as his homes, learning new ways of life became the best thing that ever happened to him. So a very beautiful summary out of this reading. And now in part D, see here the reading. Part B and part C, not difficult. Please you take care of them. And in part D, for your speaking, is living in another culture a good thing or a bad thing? Those who have the experience of immigration might beautifully answer this. So please pause the video and give your answers. My sample response: yes. Living in another culture is good because it helps you learn new things, make friends, and understand different ways of life. You can try new foods, hear different languages, and celebrate unique traditions. It makes life more interesting and teaches you to appreciate diversity. Appreciate means value, realize and understand the beauty of. While it might feel strange at first, you'll grow and become more open-minded, making the world a friendlier place. Okay, and finished. So it can be beautifully put as a sample response for an IELTS speaking test. It was very well organized. So this unit also finished, my friends. Next session, unit 16 of the book, and that is the end of the Yellow Interchange. Okay, it's a very beautiful book covering past, present, and future verb tenses. If you cover this book beautifully and speak the parts that I want you to, you can easily function in all situations. And now, as a unit review, today we talked about the question, where were you born? We talked about these people, about the places that they are born. This conversation in two parts, about the girl and the boy. It was beautiful. Past tense of be was where we talked about this girl who was late. Pronunciation: don't add a syllable to words. It is aren't. It is not aren't. Aren't. Be careful. Conversation, the second part, we talked about it, and the very beautiful grammar focus, combining was, where, and did in past tenses. Talked about years. Listening also, beautiful. Word power in the school days, talking about your past memories of schools. We had a lot of speaking here and also here. And the third culture kit that we just covered right now. And in our word file, a review. I like this review part because it quickly tells us what we did, and all the things kind of come back to our mind. We talked about the countries in need of the before their names. The list is longer than this. Biography, we talked about it, what it means. And we had a lot of grammar practice today. Speaking parts about the famous people of your country that we did. Dependence, independence, opposite of that, independent adjective. Conversation, we had a lot of grammar and speaking practice with each other. By, which means two, we talked about. Try, which means three. Here we had a cup of tea, which not my cup of tea means it's not interesting to me. Scissors we talked about. To be past, which is was and were. In this part we covered. The pronunciation, you know what it was. The second conversation, we talked about it. Field of study, which means major. Grammar, the good grammar part. Did, was, where. Here we had, I told you that you need to memorize the past and PP of the irregular verbs. Grammar practice, here we had a lot of sentences covering the years. We talked about them. We said divide them into two parts. Listening part, tour guide, give tours to Canada. The prepositions you need to memorize. Architect, architecture we talked about. Word power, geography, geo and graph. PERE. Speaking part, a lot of answers here. They were really useful. Be good at something. I wasn't good at sports. I'm not good at sports, or I am good at sports. Recess, which means break time. Help someone with something. We talked about it. Look forward to something or to doing something. Eagerly like something. And I'm speaking very much. On time, opposite of late, and all of these things that we covered here. Habitat, living place for animals, and the reading part that we took care of. Anything else? No, nothing. Finished. Okay? Very good, my friends. Another unit of interchange finished. I hope that you have enjoyed it. If you do enjoy it, please share it with your friends. Please invite them to come to my channel, and please encourage them to subscribe. I am putting time and quality time for you guys, and I'm happy to do so. Please kindly subscribe to the channel, as it is useful for my channel. Thank you very much. I hope you have a brilliant day ahead of yourself. Take very good care, and bye.